Armando Lopez asks, how would you modify the Democratic Party platform to start winning local elections and take the party to the left instead of the center where Obama has kept it? My response to that, that's a good question. My response to that is, it's the old cliche. If you shoot for the stars, you might hit the moon. So I've described in the past how in the U.S. it makes sense to support candidates who are more liberal than you, because that person is not going to get everything that they want and everything that they ask for. So if you have somebody really going guns blazing, talking about things that even you and I wouldn't necessarily agree with, to nationalize some industries that you and I think maybe should be private, you vote for that person. You vote for that person because they're not going to get everything they want, and you want somebody who's to the left of you and a fighter, because if the person is to the left of you and a fighter, well, then the middle ground where we get the compromise and where we get the legislation might actually be just standard progressive stuff that we like. So, you know, Bill Maher did a rant a while ago on his show in his New Rules segment where he said the left needs a Tea Party. I agree. The left needs their own Tea Party, where almost to the point where they're dogmatic and unreasonable about certain issues, and in that dogmatism and in that level of unreason, if you will, they pull the spectrum back to the left, because the spectrum right now is so far to the right that it's comical. That the Democrats are centrist at best, more likely center-right, and definitely pro-establishment and pro-corporation. So that's the answer to that. To drag the Democratic Party back to the left, you have to embrace candidates and talking points that are even to the left of you, knowing that they're not going to get everything they want, and perhaps the compromise, the middle ground, is universal health care, universal education, and stuff that we actually agree with. Brad Vertigan says, are there any issues that you and the American right agree on? Awesome question. So first thing is, they're great marketers. They know how to sell ideas better than anybody. Their ideas on their merits alone, they'd be polling at like 25% on everything in the U.S. Just flat out unpopular ideas. Nobody agrees with them. Nobody agrees with them. But somehow they manage to get between 40% and 51% of people to support them every election. Every election. How is that? They're unapologetic. They double down. They're aggressive. They go on the offense, and they cower Democrats into a corner. So simply from a marketing perspective, the Republicans are brilliant. Now, on actual issues, I've described on the show before, I'm actually a moderate on a few issues. So number one, on the issue of immigration. Number two, on the issue of abortion rights. And I'm a moderate on capitalism and regulation and government agencies. So let me explain exactly what I mean by that. When it comes to regulation and government agencies, I'm a moderate because there are some things that liberals want to fund that I just think their priorities are woefully misplaced. And they do believe to a certain extent that, oh, the government can like solve everything, bro. Like, for example, the National Endowment of the Arts, where you have like government funding that goes towards the arts. I disagree with that. I just disagree with it. It's one thing if you have the government paying for music classes or art classes in public schools, that's fine. But anything on top of that, where the government's funding art projects, I just flat out disagree with that. I think the government should be there for the necessities, to take certain things off the table in a civilized country. So, like I often say, healthcare, education, childcare, stuff like that. The government should do that infrastructure. But art? No, that should be private. Sorry, and I know a lot of liberals disagree with me, but this is why I say I'm a moderate when it comes to regulation and government agencies. Now, for regulation, it is true that sometimes there's over-regulation that makes no fucking sense. So just to give one example, I know somebody who had a pipe burst in their water heater or something like that, and when the guy came and looked at it, he said, well, the problem is that the city that you live in, they have a regulation that says you need the commercial level backup thing. So whatever the piece was, it was a commercial level piece, and it's overkill. You don't really need it, and it's really expensive. So now that this one broke, I got to get you a new one because you're mandated by law to have it, and it's really expensive, and you're going to have to pay more money. That may be overregulation. Red tape for small businesses. Hey, you need a permit for everything under the fucking sun. That may be too much regulation. So it depends specifically on what regulation you're talking about. If you're talking about Glass-Steagall, well, then I'm in favor of it. And that's not just, ooh, big government, too much red tape. No, that's just a common sense regulation that prevents fucking economic crashes. So it depends. On that, I'm a moderate. When it comes to capitalism, I believe in a hybrid system. I would not get rid of having some form of capitalism in society because I think it conforms with human nature. I think we have a competitive drive. I think evolution proves that. I think people are always going to strive to be better than the next person, and we're always going to strive on some level. We're going to be selfish and greedy. So you don't deny that in human nature. You harness that. And a free market system has shown that it can harness that, and there can be some positive outcomes of that, but also some negative outcomes, which is why I believe in a hybrid system. You need socialism and government to take certain things off the table and prevent against our worst abuses of human nature, and you need capitalism to be the base of how we act within a given economy. I think that I've been swayed by the abject failure of authoritarian communist countries. I don't think a pure communal society works because I don't think it conforms with our human nature. In the same way, I don't think a pure free market laissez-faire society, Ayn Rand style, works because that doesn't conform with human nature either. It's something in the middle is there. So I'm a moderate on the issue of capitalism because I wouldn't scrap it. I'm basically, as far as socialists go, I am a socialist. I'm just as far right-wing on the spectrum of socialism as you can possibly get. In other words, I'm a social democrat, or a welfare status is another thing of calling it. And then when it comes to immigration and abortion, you guys know my take on this. On abortion, I'm a mix of the furthest left-wing ideas and the furthest right-wing ideas. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say abortion? I meant to say immigration. So what that means is I'd grant amnesty to everybody here. Everybody gets amnesty. If you're here, congratulations. You're now a citizen. But then I would do border protection. And I would set up a system of legal immigration to come into the country, but I wouldn't, I'm not fucking around. Once I do amnesty, everybody becomes a full citizen. No bullshit, hey, long process, gotta go wait on the line and pay back taxes and fines and blah, 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 blah. No, you're all citizens. So amnesty, that's my left-wing idea. Then the right-wing idea is, honestly, guys, I know I'll get some shit for this, but I don't even give a shit. If the morons want to build a fence, go ahead and build a fence. I don't care. It's irrelevant anyway, and it'll put some people to work. There it is. And it's an infrastructure project where people can just do something. So I'm not even against that. I would do border protection, but I would do amnesty. So I guess between the far left and the far right ideas there, I'm more of a moderate. And on abortion, I think it should be 100% legal up until viability, which is about 23 weeks. And then after that, I am in favor of basic regulation. So I agree with Roe versus Wade. I'm not somebody because there's some people on the left who basically say 0 laws. And even late-term abortions, zero laws. You can just get it if you want to get it. No, I think up to 23 weeks, it's 100% your choice. But then after that, I do believe that we should only allow abortions in cases of rape and incest, and if the life of the mother is in danger, or if there's some sort of fatal defect in the fetus where the fetus won't survive anyway. So that's a middle ground, too. That's one where I'm more of a moderate. It just so happens I end up talking more about how I agree with the left on that, because the right is so fucking crazy and they want to ban all abortions. But make no mistake about it, I am a moderate on that issue. And finally, we have Rosa Louise Johnson, who said, if you were president for a month, what would your first executive order be? What policies would you see as most pressing? Okay, so I don't know what I would do executive order-wise, to be honest. Well, actually, that's not true. I do know. So executive orders are not all-encompassing. I can't just do whatever I want because I'm not a dictator. So my hands are tied. But what I know I can do with an executive order is, in effect, end the drug war for the people who are already in jail. So I would free all non-violent drug offenders. I'd free them all. I'd pardon them all. So it would be off their record, too, the fact that they were in jail for this. You're all released. People say that's extreme. I disagree. I think the opposite is extreme. I think keeping anybody in jail who's a non-violent drug offender makes you an asshole. It makes you somebody who's anti-freedom. Just because the status quo is fucked up doesn't mean that you're not extreme for continuing it. No, the status quo is the extremist thing. The not extremist thing is to let all the non-violent drug criminals out of jail. So that's what I do in terms of an actual executive order. In terms of what policies I'd push for, obviously, number one on the list is trying to get money out of politics. You can't do that with an executive order, or at least I don't think you can. I'd have experts look into that, and if I could do something with that, then sure, I'd do it. I would end the wars. I would get universal healthcare and universal education would be top priorities as well. That's my basic outline. Executive orders, I'm limited, so I would just release all the nonviolent drug offenders. That'd probably be thing number one. But the other things I'd focus on more than anything, money out of politics, healthcare, and education. So, and ending the wars. So that's my basic layout there. Everybody says on the Republican side, on day one, I'd do this, this, and this. Obviously, you can't get everything done on day one, but I would let all the nonviolent drug offenders out of jail on day one.